Good evening and warm welcome to everyone. On behalf of International Buddhist Confederation, I would like to welcome you all to Dhamma Talk 9, which is part of our ongoing fortnightly program called International Dhamma Talk Series that was commenced on 19 November 2021. Today, we are glad and honored to have among us our teacher, Shartse, Khensur Geshe Jangchup Rinpoche, Executive Director of Gelug International Foundation, Karnataka. Rinpoche would be teaching us on the topic living during the time of crisis and uncertainty. We welcome you, Rinpoche. Also, I would like to inform all the participants that the teaching will be followed by question and answer. So those who have questions, they may kindly raise their virtual hand or you may put them in the chat box. So with this, I would like to share Rinpoche's brief bio. Geshe Jangchup Choeden, also known as Shartse Khensur Rinpoche, was trained at Gadan Shartse Monastery and graduated as a Geshe Harampa. Later, he received advanced degree of Geshe Ngagrampa from Gyuto Tantric University. Rinpoche has studied under great many eminent Tibetan masters, including His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He has traveled extensively and taught Dharma in many countries of America, Europe, Asia. Apart from Tibetan, Rinpoche speaks fluent Hindi, English, and Mandarin. For 9 years, from 2019 to 2017, he served as the abbot of his alma mater, Gadan Shartse Monastery. Khensur Rinpoche regularly participates in many important international dialogues and conferences on educational, religious, cultural, social, and environmental issues. At present, Rinpoche is the Executive Director of Gelug International Foundation, Global Headquarter of the Gelug Tradition, Secretary at Gadan Titokhang, Office of the Supreme Leader of Gelug Tradition. He is the Deputy Secretary General of International Buddhist Confederation based in Delhi and Vice President of the Asian Buddhist Conference for Peace based in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. Besides, Rinpoche is the Vice President of the Indian Himalayan Culture for Nalanda Buddhist Tradition based in Delhi in India. Sangha Advisor for the Vajrayana Buddhist Council of Malaysia that is based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and also trustee of the People Tree and Intercultural Center based in Bangalore in India. Now, may I request Venerable Dr. Dhammapiya, Secretary General, IB International Buddhist Confederation, to kindly welcome our teacher. Over to you, Venerable Dr. Dhammapiya ji. Venerable Dr. Dhammapiya. Unmute. Venerable, your mic, yes.
No, my mic was not allowed by host, is saying. Now we only got okay. Host is not allowing me to speak. So,
now you're audible, Venerable. Please.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa buddhang saranang gacchami dhammang saranang gacchami sanghang saranang gacchami dutiyampi tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami dhammang saranang gacchami sanghang saranang gacchami dukkha petacani dukkha bhaya petacani bhaya Soka peda jani soka hontu sabhe panino. Greetings to all from India, the land of Buddha. I take this opportunity to come today's Jangchup Choeden Rinpoche and also all the members of Mahasangha, brothers and sisters, esteemed upasakas and upasikas, all those directly through this Zoom or those who will be listening to Dhamma talk by other platform, that is if Facebook or YouTube. I welcome you all today to this Dhamma series. I'm traveling. Just I came back from a function where the 43rd Atonement of 43rd Jnana Vajra Rinpoche. That is the, I think, the 43rd head of some Sakya lineage, something like that. So I'm on the way now back to Delhi in the car. So this Dhamma Talk series is very important for all the Buddhists across the globe to acquaint with the teachings of the Buddha from different dimensions. As different speakers or Dhamma teachers, they speak from different perspectives. The main, let people know about the importance of Dhamma or Dharma, not ism or something called Buddhism, the Hinduism, or
We are sorry for the inconvenience, Rinpoche. I think Venerable is traveling, so there is a network issue. I request you to kindly start today's teaching, Rinpoche.
Okay. Hangi tu se nyir zone tawa tham je pang be chire tham be chu ni dun ze ba go tham de la cha ze bo mi jong du wa ga lo nyur de ba gun jur chang je ba de xie xie ong bu ji jin ji ji lo nian yu shu ba de la cha ze ram jong song ra gun la ta we mi ke san tha ban de be jong ze we ge we ta ge ze ba ye sen ze xie nian nam la ku cha ze. Okay. First of all, I would like to thank Most Venerable Dr. Dhamma Piyaji for his opening remarks on this occasion of the 9th lecture on the series of lectures the International Buddhist Confederation has been organizing for some time now. And I would like to also thank all the sisters and brothers joining me in this session today from different parts of the world. I'm seeing some familiar faces from the different countries. It goes as far as Brazil, one of the farthest most from here, where I'm kind of engaging you guys. And it's a great pleasure for me to be part of this event. And today's topic is, as our sister has already told you, living during the times of crisis and uncertainty. And this topic really kind of relates very well to us at this time, at this period. Since we have just gone through a very brutal pandemic, one of the kind of hardest time in history in our recent past, as long as our memory goes. So this is a kind of one of the very tough time for the entire humanity. And of course, it's a tough and challenging time to all of us as an individual, human being, or as a practitioner, whatever we say. But it is not kind of how to say, unimaginable thing that has happened to us, or that has kind of taken place. Buddha Shakyamuni has already taught us 2,600 years ago that our entire life is kind of constituted by kind of various varieties of dukkha. Now, there comes into the picture the Four Noble Truths. Out of the Four Noble Truths, Buddha first taught the dukkha, and that is normally we translate it as a suffering. There are kind of intellectual discussions like if suffering is a correct kind of equivalent to the term dukkha or not, but that is an academic kind of topic or academic subject. But here we can use that term as it is very commonly adopted. So it's the Buddha taught the suffering, and then the second thing that Buddha taught is the source or the origin of suffering, which is samudaya. In the Sanskrit, it is samudaya, and dukkha is Sanskrit for the suffering. So this dukkha, the Buddha taught, is a kind of a much subtle and kind of a wider angle of suffering. It doesn't just kind of end at that point of like physical pain and mental agony and such things. It goes much beyond that, and it goes much deeper than that. So from that point of view, we need to understand that our very existence is conditioned by suffering. And if we have that kind of understanding acquired, then even if we fall into this kind of crisis and kind of uncertainty, we won't get shaken up. We won't kind of get cornered. So that is very important. So that is the reason why Buddha kind of emphasized a lot on understanding the suffering, because the only kind of practice about the suffering that we can use is understanding it, understanding what is suffering, and after that, contemplating on the kind of outcome of the suffering, what benefit that we can drive out of it. So there comes into the picture, according to the Mahayana tradition, or according to the basic Buddhism, a kind of renunciation, kind of a wish to be free from that suffering. And that's a very kind of positive and important kind of mentality that we need to work on it. And so here, today, I'm just completely focusing on living during the time of crisis and uncertainty. normally as a human being, we love to live a comfortable, happy, and enjoyable life, and have everything under our control, so that everything would be predictable, and things are like, things won't go out of our control. But in a time of crisis, things won't go in that way. So when the things don't go in that way, then people start panicking. So here, when we start panicking, then things will become more destructive and more harmful. This is important to know here. So from that point of view, Buddha taught the dukkha. So Buddha's purpose of teaching the dukkha is not just to make all people depressed and feel, how to say, generate a sense of unhappiness feeling. It was not the purpose of the Buddha. Buddha's purpose was to thoroughly understand the problem that is in the front of us. And after understanding the problem, then search for the solution. So if we understand the problem thoroughly, then it will be much easier for us to search for the solution and find the solution and then apply it. So it's really important to look at the teachings of the Four Noble Truths from that angle, rather than there are people I met, and then there are people who claim that Buddha's teachings of Four Noble Truths is very depressing and how to say, it's a very unhappiness and suffering driven. But in reality, we have to understand it from the other way around. And it's logically we can apply that. If we have some physical ailment in our system, then it is better to understand that ailment than not knowing anything about that. If we understand the physical ailment or the sickness or health problem, whatever we have, if we understand that well, then we may be able to find the solution in a much more how to say, logical and much more accurate way. So that was the purpose of Buddha's teaching the dukkha, or the suffering, in the beginning of how to say, revealing his messages towards the to drive a practitioner or the follower towards the enlightenment. So from that point of view, as I told you, when we have a better understanding of the human existence and the conditioned existence, then even if some troubles may arise from time to time, we may not get overwhelmed by it. We may not get swept away by it. We may not fall into the panicky state. So when we are in that stable state, then we can fight it. We can encounter it more suitable and more powerful way. So that's an important thing that we need to understand. And for that reason, I think from the beginning, when the pandemic has arisen, we have been hearing or listening to all the different varieties of news feeds. And there were some news feeds, those were completely came out of the exaggeration of individuals perspective of exaggerated level of the pandemic, or to a certain extent, individual level of lack of the proper knowledge of the problem that is that has appeared in front of oneself. So we have also heard that some people have committed suicide in fear of catching the pandemic. And so those kind of things really we need to understand. And for that, there is nothing like a miracle. To prepare ourselves well to do anything, we need to train step by step. There is nothing miraculous that will kind of suddenly appear and then bring a kind of unimaginably huge change. There is nothing like that. We have to be practical. So from that point of view, we need to understand the nature of our existence. Like nature of our existence as a living being, nature of our existence as a human being, and what kind of challenges that we are destined to face as a human being or as a living being. So as a living organism, there are a lot of challenges we are destined to face in our life. As a human being, there are plenty of furthermore challenges we are destined to face in our lives. So if we understand our entire very existence in our own life from that angle, when we face a situation of pandemic, and at presently, like there is a war going on in Eastern Europe. And from some time, we also face circumstances of natural calamities like floods and like earthquakes and those kind of things. So if we have a wider understanding of the very existence from that subtle point of view, then it is much easier to relate, and it is much easier to get adapted to that kind of changes that happens around us. So then upon that, a very important attribute of the suffering that a great Buddha taught us is impermanence. Impermanence from another angle is a a rendering of change, non-stagnating change, a continuous change that is happening at the ground level. So as a living being, every moment the cells in our body go through the changes. And there is no a single moment that the cells in our body, our system won't change. So if we have that kind of understanding, then we will be able to easily absorb the information about something is happening new, something is deteriorating from good to bad, something is improving from bad to good. So that is an important thing. If we don't have that understanding of the changing and impermanence, then it will be a little bit difficult to accept the changes. Those are happening at the ground, happening in front of us. So from this point of view, it is really important that we should try to understand the overall nature of our existence. So the overall nature of our existence is we are, all of us, all the living beings and all the human beings are produced by causes and conditions. And the causes and conditions those produces us has some kind of some kind of characteristics. Those are kind of transmitted to us. So, and for that reason, we change. So that reason we change constantly from childhood onward, every moment. And this change is kind of non-stoppable. Like for a human being until the death. After the death, according to the Buddhist philosophy, there is a kind of a continuity of the being, a continuity of the mind. According to Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist philosophers don't agree with a kind of a eternal soul. There is no kind of a concept, or it is kind of untenable to have a concept of the eternal soul. But there is a continuity, and that continuity is further dependent on other causes and conditions. If something is not dependent on the causes and conditions, then that is kind of a non-functional, permanent. It could be permanent or it could be nothing. So from that point of view, if we understand our very existence from that angle, then facing difficult circumstances or difficult changes in our life, it becomes kind of acceptable to us. Unless when we don't have that kind of understanding, if we face a kind of a difficult situation and circumstances, then that kind of changes overwhelm us. And that is the reason why we see very often in many countries kind of suicides. The percentage of suicides that happens in the kind of global scale is much higher in economically advanced and kind of well-doing countries compared to the kind of economically backward countries. Why it is like that? Because those people have a kind of didn't have that kind of a wider understanding of the the characteristics of the life and existence. Thus, if something happens, they become so desperate that they kind of think about ending their own life. I don't think a happy person will take their life. It is, I think, impossible. So that shows that deeply in their mind, though they have plenty of kind of wealth in their disposal, but deeply in their mind, they are very deeply disturbed. Why? Because of lack of understanding of the kind of conditions and the characteristic of our own existence. So, according to the Buddhism, wealth may have some kind of strength and power to solve some problems, but it won't produce the true happiness, the happiness deeply in the mind. True happiness has nothing to do with the kind of eating kind of an ice cream or kind of drinking an alcohol or something like that. True happiness should arise in the depth of the mind, and the wealth has very kind of a minimum role to kind of produce that. So how does it come from? It comes from the training of the mind, training of the thinking, training of the ideologies, and transforming the thoughts. So according to the Mahayana Buddhism, particularly in Mahayana Buddhism, and exceptionally, exclusively in kind of a mind training tradition, which has been kind of exclusively kind of how to say, put into in a group and created a category of itself in the Tibetan Buddhism. In the early kind of ancient, Buddhism, we don't find that kind of special coining of mind training, that kind of terminology. But the Tibetan Buddhist scholars and practitioners, they coined this terminology, mind training, by collecting a set of information. Those were available in ancient Buddhist texts from Nalanda and earlier beyond that, even some from the kind of early time of the Buddha's life, mostly from the Jataka tales, and later some kind of books written by Nagarjuna and great other kind of acharyas, and like Acharya Shantideva and so on. So in the mind training tradition, there are particular kind of instructions where it teaches us where it teaches us about how to transform bad circumstances into the path of enlightenment. So let me quote some important lines from a book named as 7 Points of Mind Training. So here in that 7 points of mind training, in the third point, it is particularly about the transformation of bad circumstances into the path of enlightenment, or it can be translated as, in the other words, it can be translated as transforming problems into path to enlightenment. So here, the great Master Chekava, who is known to be the kind of compiler of these kind of lines of mind training, or sometimes he's also known to be the author of this short text. He says that in Tibetan, now this one, when we translate into English, of course, there are kind of different versions of English translation. Let me read 2 of them. When habitat and inhabitants are all spoiled, transform adversity into a path of enlightenment. And in another translation, when the world is filled with evil, transform all mishaps into the path of enlightenment. So here, what we can do is, when everything that is surrounding us appears to be kind of taken over by the evil, or kind of harmful and negative things, we have to find out a way how to kind of take that thing that is existing or developing around us into our own practices to kind of get closer to the enlightenment. So there comes into the picture all the different varieties of practices, like practice of patience, practice of endurance, and then of course there are also practices of kind of charity, giving. So if there are kind of harmful circumstances happening around us, we have to learn how to kind of maintain our own inner peace by practicing patience and practicing endurance. and kind of perseverance. And then when there are so many kind of bad things or some kind of evil and harmful things happening around us, we should not be completely just focus on our own self. We should be kind of thinking about people around us, particularly those people who are less privileged compared to us, so that we can kind of provide some relief to them. And that is an opportunity to carry on that kind of practice. If such kind of circumstances doesn't happen, then we won't be happy. We won't be having that kind of that opportunity. So it's really important to look into the matter from that angle. So if then from the other angle, if we happen to fall sick, then we need to find out a way how to transform that falling sick into our own practices to enhance our spiritual experience. Like there is a very common concept of doing the kind of practice of giving and take. Giving one's own wealth, fame, and kind of good health and everything, the merits and good deeds to the other, share with the other, and then taking other people's suffering and kind of defame or kind of all the kind of sickness and all the varieties of trouble they face to oneself. Of course, at a beginning level, we have to do it mentally. At the beginning level is the level when the practitioner is at the weakest point. So the practitioner may not be able to physically and do something at that kind of weak stage, but they can train mentally to kind of do that kind of exchange, which will gradually become a kind of a familiarity, and gradually that will manifest in a kind of physical kind of actions. So it's really important to understand it that way. But sometimes people have a kind of a misunderstood notion, and when we tell them that we have to give everything of them, then they feel like even from the beginning they have to do it. But it is not like that. Like we have to understand that different stages of practices are there. It doesn't mean that when you are training into the bodhicitta, every practitioner into the kind of practice of bodhicitta is all equal. It is not like that. Everyone have to kind of start from the beginning and then have to graduate at the kind of ending level. They have to go through the kind of different levels. So this is really important to understand. And so from these points of view, it's really important that we should learn more about how to kind of make our day-to-day living a part of practice, day-to-day thought, kind of a part of our kind of mental transformation. If we remain same, like 10 years back, what I was, and 10 years after that, if I'm the same, then there is some kind of a mistake or something is wrong there in the practice, in the learning, in the training. So training is not just kind of collecting information. Of course, collecting information is important. It is useful. It is the first step in the Buddhist kind of training, or in the Buddhist kind of study. We say wisdom acquired through studying and learning or reading. These are all fall under the same category. Of course, from that point of view, collecting the information is good or is important, but that is not the end. The information those were collected needed to be processed. Like nowadays, we say data analysis. Just acquiring the data is not enough. Someone needs to analyze the data. When we analyze the data, then there will be the result. Those are showing out. Then when the result shows out, then based on those results, then one can strategize the things. In the similar way, when we train ourselves into the Buddhist kind of spirituality, it's a similar thing. First thing, we need to learn. Without learning, no one can get anywhere. So learning is important, but that is not the end. Acquiring the kind of information is not the end. And after that, needed to process the kind of analyze the information. Like in the other words, we can say to process the information. So then there comes into the picture the contemplation. The second level of wisdom is a wisdom or the knowledge acquired through the contemplation, which comes from analyzing the information that is acquired. So then once that level of information, that level of knowledge and wisdom arise, then that is much more stronger and powerful kind of knowledge and wisdom compared to the first one, just collecting the information. Then even that is not the end. Analyzing the information, whatever is learned, and then coming to have a kind of synthesized, a deeper level of understanding. But that is not the end. Like as I told you, if we do the kind of a data analysis, acquiring data is first level, analyzing data is second level. After analyzing the data, then comes into the kind of picture, the result. Like out of all these data, this much of percentage is in this A category, this much of percentage is the B category, this much of percentage is in the C category, and all those things. That is a kind of a much better understanding compared to the just having the data itself. Then after that comes into the picture the strategize. Now we have this information of that much of percentage falls into the A category, that much of percentage falls into the B category, that much of percentage falls into the C category. So now how to strategize these things to get to our goal, and then use that to get to the goal. And there comes into the picture, according to the Buddhism, meditation. A wisdom and knowledge acquired from the meditation. The wisdom and knowledge acquired from contemplation is needed to be further kind of used and tested through the meditation. And after doing continued meditation and acquiring familiarity on that, then there comes into a kind of there arises an experiential knowledge, an experiential wisdom that is known to be the kind of third level of wisdom or knowledge. So then when the third level of wisdom and knowledge is arise, then just arising of that is not enough. It needed to be sustained. It needed to be continued. unless after some time it will vanish. It is also impermanent. It is also changing. So for that reason, there is the requirement for kind of a continuous practice. So if we do it in that way, then kind of like understanding a kind of a true nature of our own existence and having thoroughly and in a more subtle way, having that kind of understanding acquired, then whatever circumstances we will face, I think that will never overwhelm us. We can maintain the kind of inner peace and kind of tranquility, even in that kind of circumstances. So, so these are the things that we need to understand. But when I was thinking about, I was thinking about this, living in the time of crisis and kind of, uncertainty, like for many people, they appear to be kind of, expecting a miracle to happen. But miracle doesn't happen in the way things are expected. But human being can create their own miracles, which has never happened in past, but through the human efforts, it can be created. Like if we compare ourselves to our ancestors who may have kind of faced similar variety of pandemics in past, or similar variety of kind of circumstances in past, has much less kind of resources and much less kind of technological advancement and medical advancement compared to us. But somehow they came out successfully by kind of winning the battle against the pandemics. Like if we talk about the famous Spanish flu that has kind of happened in this world a long time ago. During those days, they didn't have a kind of the information technology revolution as we have today, or advancement as we have today. They didn't have a kind of a medical advancement or medical technology advance as we have today. So they even didn't have the kind of number of experts that we are having today in our disposal. So with all of that kind of backwardness, they have successfully kind of came out of those pandemics. So if we compare ourselves with them, we have to be in ease. We will definitely get out of it. But instead of that, people always think about kind of in a different way, and then they keep kind of worrying. So, and then that kind of produces more trouble and more problem. Like worrying too much could be bad for the immune system. Now, if the worrying will destroy your immune system, and you become, we become kind of unknowingly, unintentionally become vulnerable to the kind of viruses and pandemic, then that's a kind of a self-created problem. So these things are something that we need to know. And at presently, we are seeing that there is a kind of war going on. As I told you earlier, we don't know which direction this war will go. But we have to pray for good. We have to kind of, think about a good future. Still have to kind of, analyze and still have to listen to the kind of information, whatever information is coming out. It is a very unfortunate that such a war is happening in today's world, where we have kind of UNO, where we have Security Council, where we have International Court of Justice, but that kind of war is happening. It is unimaginable in some sense. But all these, international, organizations appear to be like a, toothless tiger. So somehow this is an irony that we are living in today's world. But this is to a certain extent, this is the truth. But it doesn't mean that seeing such thing happening, we have to kind of discourage ourselves. We have to strengthen our courage, and we have to think positively. Of course, the leaders of the nations which has kind of declared war, but there are plenty of people in the public who doesn't like that, who are completely against that. And that gives us kind of a strengthening. That gives us kind of some positive ground to think. So I think I would like to just say these things. So it's really important that when this kind of uncertainty arises, we have to remain kind of strong, and we have to have a kind of stronger level of courage. And of course, with that, we have to have a kind of stronger level of love and kindness to others. And the more we love others, particularly those in kind of difficult circumstances and situation, it will further strengthen our courage and kind of our inner strength. So I think this is what just I wanted to share with you, and hopefully I think it will be helpful in your life. And I think now we can go for the question and answer session.
Thank you, Rinpoche. So it's a privilege for all of us to have this opportunity to listen to your enlightening words. So the floor is open for the question and answer now. Those who would like to ask question, you may raise your virtual hand. Yeah, Mr. Tashiraptin. You would like to ask some question? Yes, Mr. Tashi.
Oh, I would like my teacher to go first, Plinio.
There is another one. Plinio.
Oh. Plinio. Okay. Yeah, Mr. Oh. Pilinio. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Yes.
No problem. It's a very difficult name anyway. So, Teacher Geshe, thank you so much for your talking. My question is, in these times of war, and we have the Ukraine in war, and as a Buddhist, we sometimes can get the feeling of hate. So what would be your teachings about how to avoid to let the hate grow inside of us when we see the injustice, the suffering, and the bad decisions that the government leaders are taking to deal with this situation? Thank you so much.
Okay. Here, I would like to quote from 8 verses of mind training. The great master Langri Thangpa says in Tibetan, Rashi Nyembe Senche Nam Digdu Thakwe Nön Thongse Rejeter Tan Tebashi Yebrkawe Chinzi Shows. And the translation goes on like this. When I see beings of unpleasant character oppressed by strong negativity and suffering, may I hold them dear, for they are rare to find, as if I have discovered a jewel treasure. So this is a kind of, as I told you earlier, Bodhisattva's way of training. Why these people go into the war? What is the root cause of that? It all relates back to the self-grasping. They have a kind of intense self-grasping, and that due to that intense self-grasping and ego, they produce excessive greed and hatred. And under the influence of excessive greed and hatred, they are doing all these kind of harmful acts. So we should not be kind of hating that person. That person we have to have a pity because of being under the influence of such a negative emotion. He's doing all those things that will in return will definitely bring a lot of unhappiness and pain to him. So from that angle, we can generate a compassion and kindness and sense of love towards them. Of course, we go against their action. We deny the act. We deny the act, and we kind of condemn that emotion. But we don't condemn the person. So that person and his action, person and his emotions, we need to separate these things. This is really important. Okay.
Thank you, Rinpoche. So there is another question from Mr. Tashi.
Geshe, thank
Yes.
you for the talk. And my question was actually about the 8 verses. On the 2nd verse, it says we should see others as superior and consider ourselves inferior. And sometimes I have difficulty dealing with the samsaric opinions of people towards me, and they ask me questions, and I feel difficulty relating to these questions because they are related to wanting money, wanting pleasure, and wanting fame and renown. And I would like to know a little bit how to deal with this through this versus perspective.
You see, 8 verses of mind training is a kind of a very condensed version of presentation of the mind training practice. And at the same time, it is also a kind of a practice meant to be done by a serious practitioner of bodhicitta. So if we kind of strive to do the serious practice of bodhicitta, then there is no space to hate any living being. So what we can do to know, avoid hating any living being is that if we see them as superior than us, and our own self is kind of inferior than them, then naturally to the kind of human thinking, you have a kind of admiration to those people who you think is superior than you. you like to kind of achieve what they have achieved. We like to kind of get what they have gotten. So if we have that kind of, attitude towards others, then that will reduce the chances of hating them. And once we kind of have avoided hating them, then the way to love them is much easier, because the be kind to them, to care for them, to love them. There is the biggest kind of this hurdle or biggest obstacle in between is hate them. You cannot hate you cannot love the person who you hate. You cannot hate the person who you love. So this is a kind of very clear from the practical point of view. So this is a method that teaches us how to drive ourselves towards the direction where we start loving all other beings. So this could be challenging. Surely this is not easy, but if we keep, putting the effort in that direction, gradually it will bring change. But changes will definitely come, but it takes time. It takes a lot of effort.
Yes, Ms. Lamu.
Thank you, teacher, for your talking. And I was thinking, you said about this gradual training, and the 8 verses actually are very hard to really apply in our lives. And when I meet someone that is not used to Buddhism, for example, is in this kind of situation of some kind of despair, some kind of thinking very depressively about the situation in our world today. Is it okay to try to talk about the 8 verses to this person that does not have any previous studies about or understandings about Buddhism? Or is something that is better, no, let's talk about something else because 8 verses are very hard, or even we can talk about it to any kind of person? What would you counsel in this kind of situation? Thank you.
Okay, Venerable Alhamdulillah, I would like to tell you that, you see, when you, in the ancient time, when there are kind of highly realized masters with the capability of the clairvoyance, reading the mind of others, and it is much easier for them to how to help the others. But in today's world, it is very rare and difficult to find that kind of person, that kind of teacher, or that kind of guide. So under such circumstances, it is good to try. It is good to try to kind of discuss with them. If you talk about the kind of 8 verses of mind training and those kind of things. And it could be highly possible that if they have some kind of, some kind of affinity from their previous lifetimes, or maybe previous lifetimes, so they will click to it. If they will click to it, then that could be helpful to them. Now, even if you put the effort, if they don't click to them, then that means that the person doesn't have a kind of basis. So then you have to try some other thing else. Like you can take it like a Dharma teachers are like a medical practitioner. Most of the medical practitioners, they are not sure when you come to them which is going to help you, which is going to help their patient. So they first give it a kind of drug and try it. Is it helping or not? If it is helping, they say that's good, that's helping. Now, if it is not helping after a couple of days, then they will, patient goes back, then they will change the medicine, and then they will give you another one. So that could be the another option to how to interact with those people. So somehow, an important thing is you have to have that, compassion and wish to help them, support them. That is an important for yourself as a practitioner. That is an opportunity for yourself to develop that. That is an opportunity. You have to look at the thing from that angle. And then whatever methodology you use, and that is all dependent on various circumstances. It is not kind of a one fixed line that you have to follow this, and this. It is not like that. Okay?
Anybody else? Yes, again, Mr. Pilinio.
Sure.
Yes, thank you so much. My dear Geshe, we have 600,000 deaths in Brazil in these pandemic times. Most of these people get sad, and some of them very desperate about how to help the relatives that died and friends that died in the pandemics. What would be your advice about how to help people that is already dead? Thank you so much.
According to Buddhism, it's very clear that in the Buddhism, there is this presentation of the law of karma, and we are all well exposed to that. So from the point of the law of karma, the kind of law of cause and effect, whatever one enjoys is a result of one's own kind of good deeds. Whatever one kind of suffer is also a result of one's own bad deeds or harmful deeds. So this is at a very basic level. This works in that way. So basically, a person who has passed away, if they wish to have a good life after that, and good circumstances and good condition after that, they have to they must have done good things before that. But then, as a human being, we get emotionally and or in some sense, blood by blood connected to other people. There are some relationships. So from that point of view, according to Buddhism, there is also this kind of a viewpoint, like you can do some kind of good practices and accumulate a good amount of merit, and then dedicate it for those dead person, a person who have passed away in past, and that will probably help them in some way. So that is one way to do it. So like in the Tibetan Buddhism, what we do is we do kind of observe the 7 weeks, the 49th day. So during that period, we do kind of rituals, and we do some kind of practices of charity and practices of accumulating merit. And then after that, whatever kind of amount of merit is accumulated, that is dedicated to those persons. So we do believe that will help those people who passed away. But I cannot prove you that such kind of transfer happens. But according to the some sutra, it is very clearly told by the Buddha that if you make offering to a group of Sangha and dedicate the merit for your parents who passed away, and that it will definitely benefit that parent, and that will be liberated from that pitiful state to a kind of higher and good kind of standard of life. So we can do that. So what we can do is either you can kind of read some kind of hymn to the medicine Buddha or Amitabha, or they can request some kind of group of Sangha to perform certain variety of particular rituals, and then after that dedicate the merit. But then there are kind of particular ways of tantric Buddhism. Those can also be applied. Okay.
Thank you so much, teacher. Greetings from Brazil. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Dr. Sonamla.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much, Venerable Geshe, for this wonderful talk. For me, I just would like to share a few things that I feel that is important in such circumstances. Number one, my Lama said that whether you are a chopa means a man who's taken the path of dharma or not. The distinction between a person who has become a chopa and not a chopa can be tested in time of crisis. So when in crisis, if you can really handle the crisis, that means you are a real chopa. Otherwise, a lay person like us, we are excited, totally accelerated when we have the fame, name, money. And then when we have some suffering, when we have a thing, we are devastated. So that is not a chopa. So the difference between the chopa and non-chopa is always made in your capacity in handling or facing such situation. Number one is that one. Second, my Lama also told me that there is a saying in Tibetan which says that Todang Nimatu se chevizu kelngin tokdu se tamelpam. When your stomach is full and when there's a lot of good sunshine, you are a real dharma. You like to practice and you are meditating. You're doing very well. But when you have problem, then you become an ordinary person. So as Geshe has given us a step-by-step process, getting into the thing, meditation, first what you call as learning, then the contemplation, then the practice, then after all the meditation, then sustaining, which he said is very, and only after that, because in whole, we have lived many lives, and throughout so many lives, eons and eons of our existence earlier, we have had this bad, what you call as habitual patterns, and it is so difficult to get rid of those things. So as Geshe says, that to be in a position to face the whole thing is, you have to be thoroughly ripen by the what you call as the dharma, and only such people will be in a position to handle the situation. And I think it is very important. Unfortunately, those who can't face these kind of situations, they have their exposure to the life's experiences and understanding of the dukkha and a lot of other things are not matured. That's why they are doing the things. But dharma as a practice, the lifelong practice, prepares us to face this situation. Then there's another thing briefly, if it doesn't take long time. Nalapema Dundul has said that if I'm sick, I'm happy I'm sick, so that I will be in a position to cleanse all my obscurations. If I'm not sick, I'm happy I'm not sick, because then I'll be in a position to help others. If I die, then also I'm happy, because then all these worldly these things will be over. And if I live long, then also I'll be happy, because I'll be in a position to again do meritorious gyawage work. So like that, it goes on and on. And at the end, he says, no matter what happens to you in your life, be always happy. Be always happy. He says, then he says, gawa gomshi he said like. So I think Dharma actually teaches you to temper yourself, to soften yourself, to face the situation, the things like that. So but then, as Venerable Geshe has said, it doesn't come just like that. It is very easy to say things like that, but the process is very tedious, and you have to think. And I like that last word which Venerable Geshe has said: sustain it. There are many people who know, who understand, who are very good in arguing on those kind of things, but they cannot sustain it. They cannot make it a part of their life. So only when all these things are observed in their system, and then they can sustain that, then only the benefits of the Dharma can be obtained. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sonam Tenzila. Thank you for your input. I really appreciate you share some experience of your life. It will be really helpful for many of other students. Those are joining us from distant, far from different kind of other side of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There is another question from Khenpo Uginla.
Yes, please.
Yes. Khenpo Uginla, your mic is muted.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, Khenpula.
So, can you see me?
Yes, Khenpula.
Okay. First of all, Kuzu Zangbola to His Eminence Khensur Rinpoche. I'm just joining IBC, which is a wonderful platform for the whole international world. And I just want to ask a question, which is very relevant in this mundane world. Beyond, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. Yeah, you just want to face the real world in the mundane world. And in this world, internationally and nationally, even in India, there are many Buddhist practitioners, whether you call as a practitioner or whether you call a Buddhist person, which is very important in the world. And nowadays, there are many people who participate into the bureaucracy and the politicians and being a very great leaders of the country or their community. So nowadays, it's very important in the world to have a very, very wonderful policy and wonderful leader. So sometimes I get really confused because being a leader and being a teacher are two very different things. Sometimes even a great teacher cannot be a good leader. Sometimes to be a good leader, you need so many component things, even as a practitioner. So I just want to ask Rinpoche. Rinpoche very, very well knows being a part of the Indian community and being also a very good teacher. And also he understands the bureaucracy world. And nowadays, what we are facing in a different part of the world, the policy default, the mismanagement of the leaderships, these things really brings chaos and violence to the world, which disturbs all the world of peace. In these things, it's very challenging for the Buddhist teachers as well as the Buddhist leaders to take part in a very better policy to shape the world, to bring peace and happiness. So I wish and I want to request Rinpoche to enlighten all the people of the world that what is the best method to implement in the policy and in the politics to lead the wonderful mundane world. Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you, Khenpo Ugen Angela, an old friend from Bhutan, for putting up your kind of ideas and then asking this question. I would like to say that a biggest problem is like discriminative approach and discriminative thought that is prevalent in a global kind of arena. As His Holiness always says that, I'm talking about His Holiness Dalai Lama. His Holiness Dalai Lama always says that we are all 7 billion human beings, same. So this, approach of sameness or oneness of entire humanity is very important in a much wider level. This is very important. Because of not having that, we have created a lot of problems. So even at presently, the problems are related to that, like the Eastern Europe war. To a certain extent, we have this, basic, thinking of we and our enemy, and how to protect ourselves and how to put down our enemy. This kind of mentality is very strong, and it is a at the foundation of all these activities. I think this kind of mentality needed to be reduced, and it can be reduced only by this encountering thought of oneness of entire humanity. And with that kind of thing, if we focus on problems that is equally faced by all of us, like environmental problems, like climate change, all these things, this is a universal problem. If we, instead of fighting for the boundaries and fighting for some minor things, if we get together and then work for such bigger purposes, then it will definitely bring us together and then help us to solve. Unless this kind of problem has been existing there from the time beginningless. Even during the time of the Buddha Shakyamuni, there were wars between the clans. And after that, we have a long history of a human existence, which has immense wars that have taken place. Now, even in the 20th century, 21st century, today, this is happening, and this is an irony. Human being has came out of that, darkness of, lack of knowledge and lack of education. But still, we are doing the similar things like those were done by those primitive, human beings. And this is a really, how to say, a big, issue that we need to address. But it will only, we can only be able to solve this problem unless if we come together as a common humanity or human beings. So I think it requires a much wider and much more stronger movement. And of course, when we talk about the movement, there will always be challenges, and we need to face those challenges. We cannot step back by by seeing the challenges. So hopefully, in the course of time, things will change to a better direction. At presently, it doesn't appear like that, because at presently we see that our world is getting divided into two groups. This is a very, very serious matter. This war may spill down into a world war in any moment if things are not handled well. This is a big concern for us. This is not a big concern for us only. This is a big concern for entire humanity. So we need to contemplate and we need to analyze the things, and we need to constantly keep thinking and sharing the ideas with the like-minded people, so that the group will grow. So I would like to just say that. Thank you very much for putting up the ideas, and thank you very much for asking this question. Thank you. Your mic is closed.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rinpoche. I offer my prayers to Rinpoche and all the members. Thank you very much. Please take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Khenpula. So we can take one more question if anybody would like to ask. Otherwise, we'll wind up the session here.
I think, okay, there is one more question.
There is one more question. Yeah, this would be the last question, Bachelor. Yes,
Thank you so much, Geshe, for your talk. I was reflecting here on the 8 verses that you mentioned and everything that you mentioned. I would like to ask an advice on how to talk to people that are desperate on consuming and thinking that happiness can be acquired with material objects or titles or things like that. How can we advise these people to see these things as suffering, even though sometimes they are not, they have a bit of knowledge on Buddhist texts, but they don't really reflect on that. Thank you so much.
You see, the world is quite kind of big, and there are all the different varieties of people kind of spread all over. And then there are kind of people with the different tastes and different mental disposition and different likings and dislikings, all those things. So we cannot put all people in kind of one kind of mold and mold them very easily into the way that we like. So we have to deal with other people, each and every individual, seeing the circumstances and the conditions. We have to talk to them. There is a saying in a kind of Mahayana Buddhism, Bodhisattvas kind of yana, that there are 4 ways of kind of attracting people, attracting the attention of people. Those are doing charity, helping them, and getting them closer to make them to listen to you, and then talking them very nicely, in a very softly and kind of very nicely, so that gradually people come to kind of listen to you. They like what you are saying, those kind of things. And then doing the things they like without offending your own kind of commitments and your own vows and those kind of things. So there is a kind of limitation for that. And then kind of helping them to achieve kind of their minor goals in their life. So these are the methods that you can apply, so that that will bring you closer to let the other people make more kind of how to say, trusting to you, and make more listening to you, and do according to your kind of advice and so on. So these are the 4 methods of the Bodhisattvas to assist others, to help others through kind of making them kind of follow what they want to say or what they want to teach. Okay, so it can be applied through that way. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Khen Rinpoche, and all the participants for having this lively Q&A session. Now, I would like to request Mr. Shri Malingumbuji, Treasurer, International Buddhist Confederation, to kindly deliver a vote of thanks. Over to Mr. Malingji.
Thank you, Tashidele. Thank you, Bundogla, for giving me this opportunity. I, on behalf of International Buddhist Confederation, take this opportunity to extend a very warm gratitude and thanks to Venerable Shartse Khensur, Jangchup Choeden Rinpoche for a wonderful talk on the topic of living during the times of crisis and uncertainty, which is through which the world is passing today. We had the crisis and uncertainty of the COVID that affected the whole of humanity across the world. And then now we have another humanitarian crisis of the war between Russia and Ukraine. That is another sort of uncertainty. So at these times, a talk on the topic of living during the times of crisis and uncertainty is a welcome. And then Venerable Rinpoche has given a very broad principles of application of Buddhist principles, understanding the nature of existence of human being, and then the practice of the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path with the 8 verses of training the mind to the Dhamma, which makes you a better person to appreciate the crisis and then the challenges that the humanity faces in one's life. So it has been a very wonderful talk and very enlightening by Venerable Rinpoche, the Executive Director of the Geluk International Foundation, and also the Deputy Secretary General of International Buddhist Confederation, with his rich knowledge and experience in Buddhism, has given a wonderful talk on the topic of living during the times of crisis and uncertainty. So we are very thankful to Rinpoche La for the wonderful talk in the right and appropriate time. And then through his talk, through the video and the Zoom and online thing, many people across the world has been able to attend. And then we will be also putting it in the social media and other places where people can benefit from his talk. And then we are also thankful to the participants who have joined in this online talk of the Dhamma Talk Series of International Buddhist Confederation from faraway countries like Brazil and then even Bhutan and other countries. So we are also very thankful to the participants for joining the talk of the Dhamma Talk Series and interacting and then benefiting from the talk of Venerable Rinpoche La. We are also thankful to the Secretary General IBC, Dr. Dhammapiya, for his initiative and the opening remarks that he has given. And then I lastly thank the IBC team, Kunzok and others for organizing the talk and then giving this wonderful platform to all of us for interacting and then benefiting with the Dhamma from the precious talk of Venerable Rinpoche. So with these few words, I once again extend our hearty thanks to Rinpoche for the wonderful talk and to all the participants for the participation. Thank you very much. Tashi Dele Tuchela.
Thank you, everyone. With this, we have come to the end of today's program. We look forward to having you all again for our next Dhamma Talk, which is on 8th April 2022. For more details, you may kindly visit our website, ibcworld.org. Thank you so much and have a pleasant evening.
Bye.